How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading with the prices going up or down. Over on our total, we are starting to increase for a bit. We are toward the end of today. We have an indecision candle though, so it's not too great. If we continue with bullish momentum, we could continue back toward our golden pocket. However, if we see a strong red candle here, we could create a rounded top and create a double top here that could bring us lower. That would result in our altcoins selling off. Our stochastic is coming down. Orange is above blue, but our blue is starting to curl, and it wants to go above that blue. It is trying to gain momentum right around that 30. If it can get above 30 with that blue line above that orange, we could get that stochastic to regain bullish strength. That would push our RSI, that red line, up. So those two parts of this indicator work together. Again, we are using Market Cipher A free version and Market Cipher B edits. This is over on TradingView. This is free, just like what we're telling you, so hit the subscribe, the notification bell, and then change your EMAs to as following, your colors to as following, your opacity to 70%, your inputs will be the same as mine, and then over on our Mastering the Trade series, we cover how to set up this Market Cipher B, so it will be the same as mine. It's slightly different by default. Our momentum is weakening. That VWAP is in the bearish territory, is starting to round away. That VWAP is this yellow wave. If it breaks below the zero, it gains bearish strength, which means it can continue downwards. That would bring this big blue wave, our momentum wave, down with it as the momentum gets the strength from our VWAP. As that VWAP and momentum weaken, that money flow, this green wave, weakens as well. If that money flow flips into a red territory, it flips trends, and then we typically see price action decrease, and that's where we can see stronger red candles and big moves downward. Just like when it's green, we can see those big moves forward and big increases out of nowhere. Over on our 1 hour, the VWAP is bullish, is trying to get a higher low. If we can get a higher low and stay in a bullish trend, that can maintain and help push us forward. I would watch for this to break into a bearish territory. If that VWAP breaks bearish and favors the bearish territory like back here, that would be where we would want to exercise some caution, as that could create that double top that could drop us lower. Over on our Bitcoin dominance, we are seeing a pretty significant drop down to that lower 52% range. Our RSI is weakening, our money flow is coming down, stochastic is weak. That VWAP's in the bearish territory, starting to round away. If that VWAP continues to round away from zero, we will have a lower high. Then we can make consistent or lower lows, and then that would be a bearish trend on the daily. That can end up bringing us lower, and then we could possibly push to the support range right around this 51. So that lower 51, if we're not careful here, so we can get a pretty decent move down. If we see dominance move down, we will see Bitcoin and futures likely move down. That could give us that push to that 40K where we have that fill right around on futures. We do have that fill right around that 48.2. If we cannot hold there, we do have another support range right around that 43.3. And then we have further gaps right around this 39.745. So remember, those are our next major support ranges. If we see dominance start to weaken and Bitcoin starting to sell off, it's very likely we will start to hit some of those points, and we will need to see some sort of consolidation or bullish pattern to help push us off of those points. Over on futures, we are still in our flag pattern. We did make a bounce off the bottom, but we're still not clear of getting bullish momentum forward. We could still be in this consolidation, which is more of an indecision consolidation, with our momentum starting to weaken, stochastic coming down. If that VWAP does not turn around and that momentum gains some bullish strength, it's very likely we will see a rounding top form and drop us lower, so just exercise some caution. Remember that momentum does kind of start out a little slower, and then it builds up that strength, and then you see a sudden drop or a sudden increase. We do have another gap up today, so we did try to break away from our flag pattern. If we see another push down, just like back here, remember gaps are 80% likely to fill. So if we see another push down and we continue to see this bearish money flow, this VWAP struggles, stochastics start to weaken, then we could see that start to carry over to the higher time frames at this point. If If we zoom out, this money flow has been bearish for some time. But when you see the trend start to change and you start to favor one side, you do tend to get these breaks forward. Just like you got this big run up here, this big run up here. When the money flow started to ramp up, you can see we had that bearish money flow. It started to ramp up. We went sideways as we begun that bullish strength. But once it started to get confirmed, we did start to launch forward. And that is ultimately what pushed us to where we are. We did not retrace any of those gains. So again, we did push very quickly. So we could see a very quick correction pump downward. So just be wary of that. Have a plan for a scenario where we get stopped in this flag. Have a plan where you have a scenario where we drop down lower. Don't always go all in at once, or maybe swing in between each and be aware of the possibilities and have a plan and have your plan able to adapt to changing market conditions. The 1 hour we do want to round away, stochastic's rounding, RSI does want to gain strength. VWAP is trying to push forward, momentum is trying to build strength, so if that VWAP can continue forward, that momentum will gain strength. That will help push this money flow back into the bullish territory on the 1 hour. But if we get break forward again, and then we fill some of this flag possibility, there is a high likelihood we would round away, drop down, fill this wick, and then we could see some lower price action from there. So even if we get that big run up, don't expect a big move to continue to sustain. We could still round away. We're still not clear of bearish momentum. Over on Bitcoin for the daily, if we hop back to that 1 hour, you can see we did attempt to get our break up for our inverted head and shoulders. We tried to get that break up early. We kind of made that slanted shoulder. You could watch right here and kind of tried to trade in right here. You would have been able to get a quick swing for like here to here if you were watching, and then you start to see the stochastics weakening here. You may want to sell off if you bought in somewhere around here. Not financial advice, but that's one way you could use the small time frame. It is harder to trade on smaller time frames. That's why you want to watch the small time frames just to see what the trajectory of them are. If they start to weaken, then the higher time frames will start to weaken as well. So keep that in mind. That's why we cover them. You don't necessarily want to trade on them all the time. Over on the daily, RSI is going flat. Momentum is weakening. Stochastic is coming down. That orange is below that blue, but we are kind of struggling here. You can see we got across, but we'd had to zoom in. Across is trying to push forward, but that blue line's starting to round away. If the lower time frames start to weaken, that stochastic could round away. Stay in this bearish territory that would weaken that RSI, then price action would likely push down. We will delete this head and shoulder possibility. We did get stopped out by the Fibonacci area right here. So that's another example why these Fibonacci extensions are helpful. Again, those are in that Mastering the Trade series. So if you haven't seen it, it's completely done. And you should watch that. It'll teach you a lot more about what we're covering, so you can have a better understanding of what we're looking at. VWAP is attempting to break bullish. Money flow is flat in the bullish territory. Momentum is overall weakening, but if that VWAP can get a new bullish trend, that momentum can reverse, and then that money flow would remain bullish. If that money flow remains bullish, price action will be able to push forward, but I would just watch out for price to get overextended. If we do push forward like we did back here, that's what caused this drop off right here, and why we didn't have that sustained push when we tried to break up early. Over on our 4 hour, stochastic is trying to push forward. We do have a lower high, so watch out for bearish divergence. Price action is getting pretty similar highs, so we are staying within a pretty similar range. We have a consistent high here and here, and our stochastic is going down. That could make a bearish divergence. That could help push us lower. We are struggling to break this Fibonacci area. RSI is weakening, momentum's rounding, VWAP is getting lower highs, wants to break through the neutral. If this VWAP breaks through the neutral and gets a lower low, we would have lower lows with lower highs. That could start a bearish trend with that money flow breaking into the bearish territory. That could end up weakening that one day. If the daily does get weakened from this, we are likely going to push to that 50K, and if the daily is weakened at that 50K, that does give us a higher chance of breaking through it and potentially seeing those lower support areas that we mentioned on futures. So over on the 2 hour, we are attempting to consolidate after pushing forward. We are trying to make a flag within our flag. I would just watch out as that VWAP is getting lower highs. If we make lower lows, we would still have a bearish trend that could reject us and push us lower. Over on the 2 hour, the stochastic is starting to get lower highs as well and starting to round, so that is leading into that 4 hour, so that is showing how those lower time frames, as they weaken, they can weaken the higher time frames, which will ultimately bring price action down. RSI does want to round. Momentum is starting to get bearish divergence as well. If that carries over to the 4 hour, we could see a significant break. Our VWAP does want to break into bearish territory. Money flow is breaking down as well, so I would watch the 2 and 1 hour. If the 2 and 1 hour continue bearish momentum, it's very likely we could get a quick breakdown. Our stochastic does want to push. Orange is above blue. We are rounding away. RSI is weakening. The momentum is rounding with the red dot as that VWAP is breaking into the bearish territory. If our VWAP gets lower lows with lower highs as it breaks through this bearish territory, we could create a new bearish trend that would break this money flow into the bearish territory as that momentum is weakening and coming down, and that would bring price action lower. Over on graph for the daily, it continues to defy the rest of the market. Momentum is rounding, stochastics coming down, RSI is pushing forward, money flow is pushing up. VWAP does want to break bullish, but again, I would exercise caution. If the rest of the market does come down significantly, graph will not stay separate from the rest of the market for too long. It does have a lot of hype on it as it was undervalued, underlooked, so we could see some extra valuation from it gaining some attention. But momentum is overall again bearish divergence. Stochastic wants to push down with the same bearish divergence. VWAP is pushing down with lower highs. If it breaks down with lower lows, we could get a bearish trend to break this money flow down. You can see those lows are more significant than our highs lately. So while price action is pushing up, this does create a rising channel. Rising channels are bearish patterns. Once you get that third touch to the top and you hit the bottom, you typically do see that breakdown. So that's why we're bringing it up right now, as that could push us to that 21,272. If we do not meet support at that zone, that's where we can get that push to that 16,316 that we have been warning about. So I would exercise caution. This trend we have been in could start to lose some steam here. Over on the 2 hour, stochastic is starting to push down. RSI wants to round. Momentum is weakening. Money flow does want to break. VWAP does have lower lows with lower highs. So the 2 hour is trying to flip into bearish momentum. If it does successfully flip and hold, unlike that here, then we could get that breakdown. However, if it flips and bounces back into that bullish territory, we could see a push forward and continue price action up. Remember, there is still that possibility. Overall, on the 1 hour, RSI does want to come down. Momentum does have bearish divergence. Stochastic has bearish divergence. Our VWAP has lower lows with lower highs, so we are making a bearish trend. If this bearish trend continues and we round for another lower high, then we get consistent low. That momentum and money flow will likely break into that bearish territory, and we will see price action start to retrace. So I would just exercise some caution here. Over on Ankr for the daily, we did attempt to get that manipulation push to that 34.85 like we did mention the other day. Momentum is rounding, stochastic does want to round, RSI is rounding. VWAP is getting lower highs and wants to round. Money flow is looking indecisive, so I would exercise caution. We did make a long upper shadow, so this long upper shadow, if followed by some strong red candles, does show the bulls try to push us forward, but the bears are stepping in, gaining control, and they can push us down. Our lower EMAs are getting above our higher EMAs though. If that continues, we can see price action continue up. Over on the 4 hour, we do have that long upper shadow candle. We are trying to make a bearish engulfing candle, so we follow this with a strong red candle. We could get around and a push down. Stochastic is weakening, momentum is starting to taper off, RSI is weakening, VWAP is in the bearish trend, and our money flow is starting to weaken as well. Overall, the 4 hours not looking too great. If it continues to weaken, that one day could be in trouble and we could get a significant push. The 2 hour is starting to make that rounding top, so that could carry to the 4 hour. Momentum is starting to get bearish divergence. RSI is coming down, stochastics rounding. It did try to break through that 30 and it is being rejected. If it continues to reject down, RSI will continue down. That will continue to push the price down away from this overbought area, and then that will start to push us toward these EMAs. VWAP did try to break bullish, but we are starting to round. As that VWAP rounds, momentum's weakening. As that momentum weakens, this money flow could flip into that bearish territory. If we see the 2 hours start to flip bearish, we're likely going to see the higher time frames start to pick up that bearish sentiment. Over on the 1 hour, RSI is weakening. Stochastic wants to dive. Our money flow is starting to weaken. That VWAP is in the bearish territory. Momentum's rounding with the red dot. If that VWAP continues to favor bearish here, our momentum will break through into that bearish territory again. That will start to bring that money flow down, and then we will have a lower high. We will possibly see a lower low, and then we could break into a bearish trend from there. Over on XRP for the daily, we are pushing down to our 54 support again. Momentum is pushing down, RSI is flat, stochastics coming down. We do have a bullish cross trying to form, but with these red candles, we could see a retraction of that. This red candle is a long upper shadow, that is a hammer candle. If we follow it with red candles and we break this support zone, it's very likely we will push. We did reject these EMA levels. If we continue to reject these EMA levels, we will possibly see our higher EMAs get above our lower EMAs and continue to push us down. Money flow is in the bearish territory. VWAP does want to reject neutral. Momentum's coming down. So overall, the daily doesn't look too great. I would watch the lower time frames. This 4 hour does have a manipulation X. That manipulation X, however, does have a long lower shadow, which could show the bears are getting exhausted right at support level. This is a key support, so if the bears cannot break it, and we do get a strong bounce with a strong green candle, we make a rounding bottom that could help push us through the 300 EMA finally. Stochastic is coming down, RSI is weakening, momentum's rounding, money flow is coming down, VWAP is breaking into the bearish territory. So we do look like we gained some bearish strength, but again, I would watch the next couple candles. If it's a strong red candle and we break support, then we could see further losses. However, if it's a strong green candle, we're likely going to push up. Over on our 2 hour, that manipulation X you can see is carrying to that 4 hour. RSI is weakening, stochastics overall pushing down. VWAP is favoring the bearish territory, so we do have a bearish trend here. Momentum has broken bearish and the money flow does want to push down. So overall, the 2 hour is starting to round and it is starting to weaken right at that support level. If we continue to weaken, we are likely going to break the 300 EMA on the 2 hour, and then we could see that break and rejection on the higher time frame. Over on the 1 hour, we do have a bit of a long lower shadow here as well. Stochastic is coming down, RSI is coming down, VWAP is pushing down, money flow is breaking into the bearish territory, and the momentum is retracting back down as that VWAP breaks into a bearish trend. If the VWAP and momentum continue to favor bearish, our money flow will continue down, and then price action is likely going to reject this support level and then continue down through it, where we could push through that 49 cents. Over on ALGO for the daily, our momentum is trying to make bearish divergence. Stochastic is doing the same. RSI wants to weaken, VWAP wants to weaken, money flow is in the bullish territory but starting to come down, so I would watch our VWAP closely on the lower time frames here. Over on our 4 hour, stochastic does have our orange above blue for the stochastic. That does want to bring us down. RSI is rounding, momentum is rounding, VWAP's in a bearish trend. Money flow does want to push down, so overall we do have bearish momentum here with those lower highs on that VWAP. If we get lower lows, that momentum will start to break down and that money flow can push down as well. That would start to weaken our 1 day time frame. The 2 hour does have a bit of a rising channel. Remember these rising channels, if I can get my parallel channel to work, are bearish patterns as they do end up breaking you down. So overall, we could see a push down to this Fibonacci area. Another example why these Fibonacci zones are important. momentum does want to weaken. We have a double red dot. RSI is going flat. Stochastic is starting to weaken. VWAP is pushing into the bearish territory, and the money flow is clinging on to bullish territory. But if that VWAP starts to favor bearishly here, we will see momentum push down, and then that money flow will project into that bearish territory as well. Over on the 1 hour, we do have several touches to the top, a couple touches to the bottom. So if we approach the bottom, we could end up breaking down. Stochastic is pushing down with bearish divergence. Momentum has the same divergence. VWAP's breaking down, and that money flow is starting to weaken. If that VWAP continues to favor bearishly here, momentum will continue down, and then that money flow will likely flip into a bearish trend, which could end up breaking it into the bearish territory, and then the higher time frames could end up breaking down. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a great night.